Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the Animal Markets webinar. My name is Chris. Thanks for joining. We'll be taking a look at the Forex market, take a look at some commodities, stock indices as well, for instance, in just a second, and use technical analysis primarily, of course. But before we do that, though, two disclaimers. First of all, the fact that this webinar is shown to global audience doesn't mean that it's suitable for everyone. Please visit animalmarketsglobal.com, select your country of residence, and contact the appropriate entity to find out if it is suitable for you. Second disclaimer explains that trading for exchange and global financial markets is considered high risk. Please seek the advice of an independent financial advisor for more information on that. This webinar is for informational and educational purposes only. By continuing watching this webinar, you agree with this disclaimer and you are aware of the risk involved when trading. All right, thank you so much for your attention on that. Now we can kick off. Animalmarkets.com is organizing this webinar. So after the webinar, please check out the website, and you can see a lot of good things, including education, analytics, but also information, practical information, like how you can trade using, for instance, MetaTrader 4 or the Supreme Edition, which has dozens of extra features that are added to the MT4 indicators and all kind of useful shortcuts. You can check out the instruments, how to trade, etc. Of course, and find out more information about animal markets themselves as well regarding the regulations. Of course, it's always good to do thorough due diligence. So yeah, that's a quick introduction there. You also see nowadays cryptocurrencies, right? More information coming in September. Let's kick off this webinar by taking a look at some of the majors, first of all. As always, we'll probably start with the euro dollar and go forward with the majors and some major crosses. Let me pull over the chart. I'm doing fine. Thank you, Angel. I hope that you and others are all doing fine too. Hope you had a good weekend. We are getting one last weekend of summer before, I guess, fall might be starting, at least here in Czech Republic. It's going to be 30, 27 degrees still, Thursday to Sunday. So I think that will probably be time to enjoy the summer still a little bit in the weekend before that could be the last weekend perhaps with that kind of weather. There we go. All right. So our theme of today is learning to trade the market structure and patterns. That is, in a way, a bit complex, especially if you're new in here, if you're starting out. So if you are joining for the first time, second time, third time, or feel that you're not sure why what I'm talking about, please raise your hand and then write a chat, because I would like to know. I can help you. I can add some details. Okay? So going too fast, stop me. Otherwise, I don't know. All right. With that warning behind us, let's take a look at the market structure and some patterns. Now, first of all, we can take a quick look at the monthly and weekly candles just to get a sentiment. Basically, last month, just as a reminder, sorry for all these trend lines, they're kind of blocking the view. So let me use a new template. There we go. All right, so let me remind you that July's bullish candle is still active and still valid. That is a pretty big candle. It is a candle close very near the high. I think we calculated last week it was like 1%. Basically, the close is 1%. The wick, the top wick is only like 1% of the candle, which is nothing, right? Very strong close in favor of the bulls. So we should never forget, throughout this month at least, that basically we should keep this fib in mind. And that says that we could easily see a retracement to the 38, which it has done in those past 5 days since we had the Tuesday webinar, or even go to perhaps the 50, right? Those are common bouncing spots for a strong candle like that. And it did bounce, but will there be a follow through? That's something we'll have to keep an eye on. So remember, this candle is showing bullishness. For the moment, we have to keep that in mind. So weekly, bearish wick, bullish candle, bearish candle with some wicks at the bottom. Generally speaking, still in a momentum to the upside. Why? Because basically, the last two candles have not shown a higher high. That is true. All right, so technically this is a fractal. If we would add fractals to the chart, you would see that. So that is a resistance point. Let's quickly do that. I know you believe me, but just so you can see it visually. See, there's a fractal. So because there are two candles to the right that are lower than that high. So basically, this has been one big momentum, and it's still in a momentum, but there is a small pause. Whether that pause will turn out to be a reversal or retracement still remains to be seen. I think that for the moment, we should count on a continuation because of the strong monthly candle. Typically, bigger retracements happen when 5 to 6 candles do not break this high. So we still have a couple of weeks, let's say, time, or not we, but the euro dollar, before the upside becomes less likely. So the weekly chart, in my view, is still confirming the bullishness. All right, despite maybe the let's say smaller candles of the last 2 weeks. We can put a fib from fractal to fractal, and we see roughly a 23.6 fib bounce. We could put it from the very bottom here, and we don't see a 23.6 fib bounce. Sorry, and so let me move back to this fib. All right, so that's the one we can put on the weekly chart. Let's take a look at the daily chart now. Let's take a look at what's going on. What support and resistance levels do we see? Do we see any patterns that could be interesting? So we see an uptrend channel. That's good to note. Right, we can put lines like this. And pretty neat channel. It would be probably an interesting middle line that's well respected. Looks so. You don't need it, but kind of confirms the fact that that's a pretty good channel. So price is an uptrend channel. It is making a bull flag pattern, though. We can see that maybe a bit better on the 4-hour chart like this. You can see. I'm not sure where I'm getting all these errors from on this particular profile. All right, let's hope it stops. So I clicked on don't show again. So anyhow, so basically we got this bull flag formation within this uptrend channel. So this is basically the patterns. Trend support and resistance. Well, as one, the fib we can still use, of course. We can put a fib. Probably will be using the same fib as on the weekly chart. Yeah, we would. So let's leave it on for the moment. All right, and we see that if price were to still move down from here, that price has space down to the 38.2 fib, the bottom of the downtrend, the uptrend channel, the green lines, and the bottom of the bull flag channel, which is the orange lines. That's a confluence level there around 116. So roughly speaking, we can see that if it breaks below the weekly pivot point, this could be kind of a failed breakout to the upside of this particular trend line. We were looking at a potential break. It did break, but it's kind of failing, or maybe failing. If it does break to the weekly, there could be a push down to here, which could be, again, a bouncing spot. All right, so these are some key levels to keep in mind. 116. Key support zone. If price gets there, could be bouncing spot. Many reasons, a lot of confluence. And a break below 117.50 could be failure to move up right now. A bounce at 117.50, of course, also could mean that this is still a pullback for more upside. And we can see a continuation to 119, and if it breaks above 119, then perhaps to the round level of 120. So we would have this zone and this zone. So just by using a couple of tools, we can already break it down. Start with higher time frames. Just look at the candle, just get a feeling for the sentiment, and then when we zoom in and look at lower time frames, we can start analyzing more aspects in a way, more elements. It also depends on how you trade, of course. If you take entries on the daily chart, you'll be doing way more analysis on the weekly chart than I do, right? Obviously. But I'm looking always at lower time frames. So I kind of go quickly through the weekly and monthly. All right, so we know we have a bit of a interesting structure here on the daily. Let's zoom into the 4-hour chart. We can analyze this bull flag a bit better. What's going on with the bull flag? Because so far it looked like a good break. Actually, I took this break to the upside. but I got stopped out for break even. I didn't take the profit up in here because I was looking for a pullback and continuation. So I took that risk, knowing that, okay, I might not make any money, but I won't lose any money, and if it does continue, I'll make more money. I took that deal, but I got break even in return. Those things happen. And I didn't get the profit. It was a risk I think was worth taking because it looked like a good break, good candles. What I liked about it were good 4-hour candles. It's never a guarantee, but this price action looked strong. I saw a decent daily candle, nothing spectacular, but just a solid bullish candle. But this is trading, nothing is ever rock solid. But it gave me enough, it confirmed my analysis sufficiently to say, okay, I'll move to break even and I'll leave the trade on. All right, that's the reason. But price action is not the end all, the holy grail. Nothing is. It's, in my opinion, always a combination of finding edges that work in your favor and kind of compiling them, adding them up. And when you stack enough small edges in your favor, that's when I think you get the most benefit. So what would this 4-hour pattern mean? Is this, what is this? This is a bull flag, we know that, right? But what is this? Why did it make a break and then go back into the bull flag? So it looks like a false break. So from my perspective, we can add some waves. I think it's probably looking like an expanded wave at this moment. I mean, we can still analyze the 1-hour chart and analyze this push up a bit better. Are there 5 waves to be seen? Perhaps, but we don't. I mean, you would have to really push it and say that this could be a truncated 5-wave. I don't see any 5-wave at this moment. I see a 3-wave move up, really. So it looks like a bigger correction to me at this moment, and I wouldn't be surprised if there is a bounce here, but that the bounce doesn't go too far and that there's an ABC correction down to support. Just looking at this nature, this looks like it finished in ABC right here. Let me draw that a bit better. A, B, C, A, B, C. I thought, all right, that's it. That's the correction. That's it. Price is going up again. But the failure here, I think, means that this is going to expand into a bigger correction. So I would now expect an ABC down towards the S1, probably. At the bottom of this channel at 116.75, perhaps even down to 116. So this upside, I'm not that interested in trading. It could bounce, but as you can see at this moment, it's already respecting the weekly pivot point. 4 candles have not broken this low. If it breaks above this resistance, there could be a bit of an upside right there. So from this perspective, the tricky thing about this is that it's basically, how do you say it? It is very, it's corrective. So it is just not set up in a way that leans itself to some interesting setups at this moment. I would probably just wait and see. So a lot of analysis, I know, for that conclusion. Sorry about that. But ultimately, though, if I had to choose, there could be a potential upside trade if it hangs here and breaks this triangle to the upside. But I would definitely aim at, let's take a look. I would put a fib from here to here and aim probably at 118. So that's a very small space right here. If it bounces at 118, there could be a reversal trade back down to 116. All right. The most interesting trade, I think, is still at 116 or 116.70 for upside. So after it completes its correction, to look for upside. I think that's still the most interesting, actually. The alternative is, for whatever reason, if this ABC correction does not take place, right, and price is able to break through this trend line, I would again be interested in longs. So if it pushes up enough that it breaks, pullbacks, and continues, I'm interested in longing it here. So from my perspective, this is a bullish zone, this is a bearish zone, this is a bullish zone. this is a bearish zone, and this is a bullish zone. So this is kind of like my roadmap at the moment. I'm going to see how price responds to this weekly pivot point and analyze whether it's interesting or not. I think a 4-hour candle, a good 4-hour candle might be worth taking. I might actually just wait till tomorrow morning and analyze it then and see if there's a triangle and whether there's a break to the up or downside. That could be a very conservative plan that makes sense, for instance. Relatively speaking, at this point, there's not much space to resistance, not much space to support. If you're a bit more conservative, it might just make sense to wait for the breakout or for the bounce to the upside, because the trend is up. Let's not forget the focus. The trend is up. So from that perspective, bullish break above resistance or the bullish bounce at support offers the most confidence and the most security. The best probability, I should say. So someone's asking if I can enable the sound, the audio. So I hope that you hear me now and that I wasn't just drawing. Does anyone hear me? I guess you should, but I just want a quick confirmation. If it's okay, does anyone hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3. All right, great. Ah, great. I think the person having originally problems with the sound also hears me. All right, good. So I see some comments, Dalakad, Yurian, Ayen, and we're going to take a look at that. Hi, Ahmed, good to see you. And Angel is saying, please, when you can, triple top on gold. Yes, definitely. We're going to take a look at that. So all in all, to sum it up, I'll probably wait till tomorrow. Take a look at how these 4-hour candles prints, how the 1-hour candle reacts. If there is some move up and then down like that, I might take a look at an early buy tomorrow like this to finish the zigzag potentially up. It's a risky trade, but that could work. Alternatively, if price is making a triangle and then starts to break support like this, I might look for a counter trend breakout. But really, the best trades are always with the trend, so it's up or up bounce or up break. All right, so let's take a look at the pound. At this moment, making a good dash to the downside, and I'm bearish, looking for very quickly. I don't want to dive into each currency in that much detail, I guess, but let's do a bit more quicker review of the pound, and we see that there's a good bearish momentum throughout the day, and that now it's making a correction. So I think that basically a correction up to 128.50, 128.75, like this, and there might be one more continuation down to 127.75, 127.50. If it breaks above the 61.8 fib, then I would have some hesitation about that. Then it's not interesting anymore. But if it makes a bear flag pattern like this throughout the night, or if it makes a correction and tomorrow morning it's at the 50 fib, well, those could be interesting spots to try to trade a continuation down to 127.50, in my view. If for whatever reason there are strong bullish candles today and prices moving up like this, right, I'm going to look at it differently tomorrow. And there could be a correction higher like this, especially if they're good momentum candles here. So from this perspective, basically we're seeing, I think, a continuation pattern. Unless price is showing clear momentum, then I would be more cautious. And 127.50, 127.75 is the target, which could be a bouncing spot for a potential bigger bounce even. So that's my view. I will wait for tomorrow morning to see how price responds. You might say, hey Chris, why not trade it now? It's in a good momentum to the downside. Why not jump in, right? And the reason is that I think that this double bottom here is indicating the end of this momentum. I think with London ending, there will not be much price movement in the next 12 hours or 14 hours, and therefore I rather wait for a pattern and a break of that pattern before trading it. Dollar yen is showing a double bottom here, right here, showing bullish candles. So I'm looking for a break above the weekly pivot point for a bullish move to the R1, looking for a break, pullback, continue up to the long-term moving average in the R1 at 110.50. If it doesn't break and it turns here, it might challenge the support zone again. If it breaks through the support zone, then there could be a break, pullback, continue as well. But mind you that this support zone is a bit wider than 108.50. It extends all the way down to 108. So that's a bit tricky, but if there's a break below 108, pull back to 108.50, 108, then downside, it's set up for more upside. If, however, it breaks above the weekly pivot point, break, pull back, continue to the R1, and if it breaks above the R2, same thing to the R2, the R3, and potentially all the way up to the double top here in the red resistance zone. Anyone who is adventurous, reversal trading, contrarian, might have thought about taking this bullish pin bar at the support zone and at the previous bottom, more or less a double bottom or 88.6 fib, and would be still in that trade at break even or close that trade for some profit in the meantime, or a mix. If you did that, great job. Great range trading, excellent. If you didn't, no worries. But you might want to check out my wave analysis. Small promotion for my wave analysis if you don't mind. Analytics, go to wave analysis. And why do I say that? Because of the fact that yesterday, it's taking a bit long, never mind. Yesterday, I was showing that basically this could be an A, B, C. So let's see now what it will do, if it will break or bounce, and if it bounces, what kind of pattern it makes. If it's some kind of bull flag, then a break above that looks good for continuation. If it flies down like a Ferrari and then starts to make a bear flag, it looks more like the bear flag will break probably. So important zone, let's see how price responds. Let's wait and listen to what price will do here. Is my plan at least. Break, bounce, and how will it bounce? And if it bounces, will it bounce or will it break below the 108.50? So that's basically my view of what the charts are saying, what they are communicating, it's like a language, right? So when I'm looking at the chart, this is the market structure and patterns that I see, and when I'm thinking about trading, I look at this market structure, and then I wait for confirmation. I wait for a trigger. I wait for price to make a decision in this decision zone, and I'm waiting for a break, pullback, continue in that zone, or momentum, bear flag, and break. That's what I'm waiting for. Aussie, well, I took a couple of Aussie trades, 3 to be precise. One was here. One was here. One was here. And one was here. And exited here, below these bottoms. So the last one was slight profit, but not much. And why I did that, because there are a lot of bottoms, it's a sideways zone, and I was looking for immediate continuation. If it didn't continue, there's a danger of this trend line being in force, or even this one still, right? So looks like price bounced at that, which means that it looks like there's an ABC pattern going on, and that ABC pattern might take it all the way down to the 50, 61.8, 78, who knows. At the moment, it's still respecting the 38 and weekly pivot point. From my perspective, interesting trade setups are a break above this trend line, break, pullback, continuation to the upside. Maybe secretly a trade here, a bounce back to the top, and then hope it breaks. If it breaks below the weekly pivot point, there is a potential counter trend trade here in these zones, but very small zones. It's hourly charts, so it's very difficult. Or bounce trades at these fibs still. So this is how I kind of like break down potential zones and decision zones. Ultimately, it still looks bullish to me. So the downside is not that, I think, interesting. And it's it's a riskier trades. So that's about it, I think, at the moment. Yeah, good break, good pullback, but the continuation is struggling. So it could mean that we're seeing a bigger correction before the upside. Of course, if price were to break below this bottom, then that kind of changes things. And we might be in a bearish momentum. Let's take a look at some of the pairs that were mentioned, like the dollar CAD. So let's see. Let me just change this trend line a bit. All right, good. What do we have here? What's going on here? Basically, price is, I should need to move the fib a bit. There we go. All right, so I see 5 waves up. I see a choppy downside that looks like an ABC. So those two things alone, on their own right, without taking anything into account besides those things, to me indicate that there's a good chance that the price will respect one of these fibs. The next one, as you can see, is the 78 that has a chance of being respected. Besides the 50 that got a bounce here, besides the 61.8 that got a small bounce here. The next fib in line is the 78.6 fib at 125. So with this recent candle, it looks like price can still make a small dash down 30 pips before hitting the round level of 125. And as far as I can see, when analyzing it, there's a bigger bounce here at the big weekly support level, or bottom, I should say. And there's a downtrend, sure, at this moment. But I think there could be a bounce at the 78, 88.6 fib to retest this resistance up in here. And if it breaks through that, I'm wrong, and there could be a bigger downtrend. I'm not going to trade blindly, though, because it is a downtrend, which means I would rather wait, personally, for some kind of candlestick confirmation at 124.50 or 125. Alternatively, of course, when price gets here or here, trading it at the fib is one way, or waiting for price to break above this resistance trend line would be another way of tackling that. A validation level is this bottom for the upside. Euro-yen and AUD-yen. Let me clean that up a bit here. Looks a bit messy. So patterns. This a little bit looks like a rising wedge at this moment. A little. Could be a channel too, start of a channel. In any case, we have some resistance trend line to draw on the chart. We can even draw a support trend line like this. And all in all, it looks a bit corrective and choppy. Not a big fan of the euro yet at the moment. I think that I would rather wait than trade. I don't see any potential trade. Yeah, I see some potential trade, but it's going to take some time. I would need to see price break above the 130, the R1, and the trend line. That is not around the corner. So yeah, that's going to take some time. I also see a potential trade if there's a big wick like this, right? And a doji at the weekly pivot point. And tomorrow, or a bearish candle like this, and then tomorrow it starts breaking like this. Yeah, then this does look as well. We could then, in that case, see it as, man, that's not so good. 1 second. As a break, pullback, continue. All right, so I wouldn't aim for the stars here, but aiming for this left shoulder potentially here like this. Small breakout trade, then if it breaks below that to the bottom, and then below again for continuation. So if anything, keeping an eye on a daily candle like this makes sense, and waiting for a breakout here makes sense. But yeah, those, I don't know, it will take some time before something is set up here. So pound yen. Pretty big decision zone, I think, as well. Downtrend, yes. Pretty close to the support level here. Let me quickly take a look if there's divergence present. There is a single divergence on the 4-hour chart. Yeah, I'm not really a particular fan of this one, nor am I a fan of the euro odd, nor necessarily the pound odd either. They're all making this choppy kind of correction at this moment. Maybe let me change the template to my usual admin market template. Let's see, Dogen is saying, I usually trade the trend and put around 25 to 30 pips if it breaks the trend line. And that's on 1 hour, 4-hour chart. I don't necessarily think summer days see extensions more often, maybe even less so on average, actually. But ultimately, I think it more importantly, except maybe with the holidays in December, end of December, the market really can move well in most of the year. It depends, I think, more on the phase of and the market structure. Summer will probably have a tad less movement on average, and I don't know the stats of that. That's just my gut feeling that. But this summer has been good. I agree with you. From what I mean, if we compare it by heart to other summers, this one seems. I would guess that this has seen more extensions, more movement than the average or most of the previous summers. But that's just a sentiment that I have. So it's been seems pretty good to me this year, indeed. And back to this pound odd, I am a bit struggling to see any setups, to be honest. with any of these pound odd, euro odd, pound yen, euro yen trades. Seems to be quite indecisive at this moment. Well, I think it makes sense. Let's make it simple. Let's take a look at this breakout candle. That's probably what I'll keep an eye on because it is breaking. It is moving lower. It is in a downtrend. Well, then maybe there's a good continuation. But not if there's a pin bar like that. That is not a good breakout signal. So if there's a pin bar like that on a 4-hour chart, I would not look for continuation. For the moment, if price does push lower like this and we do have a good 4-hour close, I might take a look later today. I would probably need to see a triangle, and I might take the turn at the triangle somewhere in here and hope for the break and continue. So I will look at the 4-hour candle, see how it closes, and look if there's a pattern and try to turn the top of the triangle. Euro odd, I am less interested in than the pound odd because pound odd looks bearish to me. Euro odd is a total mixture, a mixed bag of apples, really, like all types of formations you see here. It's really it's doesn't have any good structure in my opinion. It doesn't have any tradable structure, is what I should say. Yes, I mean, if we really dig hard, we will find potential zones that it could be interesting. Yes, it's true. But do I really want to? Most of the time, no. If it's most of the time, there are probably other things that are more interesting. It just looks pretty choppy. I think I would just wait for more price action. From my perspective, probably decision zones at this point. These trend lines, maybe? And this resistance top, probably. Just looks too choppy. Euro pound, by the way, we'll take a look at the odd yen. I know that we have someone looking at the odd yen. Did break above the 88.6 fib, unfortunately for reversal traders. And that's it. That's the risk of reversals. There were a lot of things in favor of a euro pound reversal or retracement, or at least a bounce at the 88.6 fib because of patterns. It just didn't happen, and it broke above it, and now it seems like it's going to retest the top and maybe break above it. Let's see. So I'm not interested in trading this. I'm just analyzing it for the moment. Pound out could be interesting if it breaks below this bottom. Some space down to this bottom at around 138.50. And euro yen we talked about already. All right, let's move on to the odd yen and gold, of course. There we go. Let's take a look at a new chart. All right. Let's take a quick look at the monthly candle, bullish, but a break of last month's low. Weekly chart, making a retracement at the moment. Back to the long-term moving average. Looks like a potential bounce area. Daily chart looks more like an uptrend. but we should also note the weakening of the tops as well. All right, good. Good momentum here. Pretty sturdy correction at this moment. This is the 7th candle. Alrighty, let's take a look at the 4-hour chart now. Let's put a fib from here to here. 50 fib bounce. Alright, I think that ultimately it looks like a bullish structure, right? Although it's not the best one in the world. But there are good things to say about the bullish perspective. And I think if we use some intermarket analysis, we can see that the Aussie might be not at a bouncing spot right now, but could be soon. That if the dollar yen breaks above resistance, there could be some space all the way to the top. So those things could fuel the AUD yen upside too, if we just keep that in mind. But more importantly, I think is keeping an eye on some trend lines probably and waiting for the breakout. I think it is a typical breakout situation at this moment. We can put on trend lines like this, or that's what I would do at least. And there we go. Alrighty. So these trend lines, I think, will give us some clue about a bearish breakout, right? A potential bullish breakout, pullback continue, bearish breakout, pullback continue. And there could be some bullish space up in here, some bearish space down in here, and then a bounce potentially here to the upside. If we zoom in a bit lower, I wanted to take a look at if there are any potential trades in this zone here, but not really. I don't think this is really very choppy, very messy. I'm not that, doesn't seem that interesting for me to trade it in such a low time frame. I'll probably just keep an eye on this 4-hour chart and see how it develops with these trend lines and these weekly pivot points. That's part of the MetaTrader Supreme Edition, by the way, these weekly pivot points. And it's a free indicator with a package. You can try it out for a month, I believe, with a demo. And of course, it's fully available for anyone who has a live account, obviously. And gold, last but not least. At the very minimum, we're going to take a look at gold quickly. Yeah, sorry, Angel, for pushing it all the way to the end. All right, so Angel and I are both looking, and probably not only us, but at the very minimum us, but probably more people, at this resistance level, right? So is this going to be a breakout to the upside, or is it going to be triple top? We already had double top. Is it going to be triple top? And this was a very, very good bullish pin bar. And I guess anyone interested in gold is aware of that. So will it work? I don't know. It is an excellent signal, but there's no guarantee. There really isn't. We'll have to see how it responds. It does make sense, and this does look like a bullish bouncing spot considering the resistance zone and the reaction to it. The safer way could be to wait for the break below the pivot point, wait for a bit of a hook back, and try to trade that hook back to the downside, right? That could be another way of trading it. The target, well, we could put, I mean, theoretically, you can go back to the bottom of this zone because, yes, price, well, that's not that relevant, this trend line, but okay, you can add it. More irrelevant probably are these horizontal levels like this. Maybe even add one here. There's a support zone. So ultimately, it can go all the way back to the support zone. But at the very minimum, I think if it does bounce here, that the target should be 1250. 1253, this is a 50 fib here. So there could be a break, pullback, and a continuation down to this 50 fib, and maybe further. Yeah, Angel thinks, that's my opinion. Angel has a bit more ambitious target, aiming for 1172, because he sees it differently than I. He sees it, I'll tell you, if I remember correctly, he is using this fib, I think. I'm not sure actually which fib he's using, to be honest. Oh no, wait. Angel might be using this fib actually, sorry. No, I'm not sure. But anyhow, it doesn't matter. 1172 basically. You're using that fib. Well, the only thing is that if you use this fib, keep in mind that the 61.8 fib is, from my point of view, is broken, right? So why? Because price pushed through it already here, and it bounced off the 78.6 fib. So it's like these levels don't exist anymore in my view. They're like gone. I just blanked them out already. So if it does break through this zone, then to me there is space down to the 78 and 88.6 fib. Oh, not this fib. Okay, got it. So ultimately, let's see. From my perspective, this looks like 5-wave. This could be an A, it could be a B, and it could be a C. That's possible. And in that case, indeed, definitely Angel's target is on the table. My main analysis is still looking at this is a 5-wave, and this is an ABC, and this is the start of a new trend. And therefore, I'm expecting price to not go that deep. All right. And it has to do with, to me, this looks like a 5-wave up. But that would be invalidated if price breaks this bottom, I think. Let me check that again. Yeah. So for the moment, I think bearish zone down to the 1250. Then it could break down to 1225. Then it could break down to 1200. And if it breaks below 1200, it can go down to 1160. That's basically how I see it. And that's with this fib, right? And if it breaks below 1160, then I would put the fib back on this one. This is the fib that Angel has. So for the moment, basically bearish reaction zone, and it depends on where price will bounce and how for the next step. Very simply put, if there's a strong bullish candle above 1300, then it looks like a bullish breakout. So definitely now this is decision zone, and it looks like it should bounce. But if it doesn't, and it has a good bullish candle above 1294, then it's looking like a breakout to the upside. All right, but ultimately, all in all, we both agree that this is looking like a pullback from upside. Let's see if this continuation upside does happen, when and where. For the moment, I would expect this downside, but if there's a good candle, this breakout could be possible too. And ultimately, I think looking for long is here, or yeah, those probably make the most sense at the moment. All right. Angel is referring to the non-farm payroll next week, which could give us more clarity. Indeed. Agree. Alrighty, folks. I think almost an hour has passed. So, any questions about trading the market structure? I mean, any follow-up, anything you would like to clarify? I am a big fan of trading the market structure. It basically, is my blueprint, my roadmap. I really, like using this. I use it constantly for Ivan Markets webinars. I use it for, the systems I trade with that I explain on Elite Currency with Nenet. Wave analysis, of course, with Ivan Markets. So it's really kind of like my DNA so I thought, okay, let me maybe focus a bit more. I don't know if it was needed, but so basically, just a quick summary: monthly candle, weekly candle, daily support and resistance, daily chart patterns, 4-hour trend, 4-hour channels, 4-hour patterns, 4-hour moving averages, 4-hour Fibs, 1-hour Wiz, 1-hour trend lines, 1-hour moving averages, and lower as well. That's how I break it down most of the time. DAX. Let's see. Wrong direction. DAX, there we go. All right, very quick overview. Looking bullish. Let's take a look why, first of all. Now, these two bearish candles are a warning sign of some bigger retracement. We got to be careful of those. Weekly candle, we are looking at candle number 9 or 8. So at this moment, I think it's a bullish bounce, but I don't expect it necessarily to break too much. I think we got to keep an eye on this resistance trend line and this resistance, roughly. We can put a fib, maybe even better, from top to bottom. All right. Daily chart. We're seeing a bounce. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 candles, 7th candle. If today is bullish, I do think that there could be some upside based on that, maybe some retracement. There could be a head and shoulders, inverted head and shoulders like that. And I think that there's some resistance here like that, but a bit of a retracement, and there could be a bounce, could make a wedge, and the wedge could break to the upside. The thing is that when looking at those monthly candles, when looking at the weekly chart, this is a substantial correction. When we compare it to the upside that we've seen on DAX since here, or maybe even here, right? That's been November last year. This is June last year. We haven't seen a correction since then. Ultimately, this could just be a bull flag from our upside. That's true. But from my time pattern perspective, it's going to stay in this correction for, I think, a few weeks at least. If it does stay a few weeks like this, it could be ready for a breakout. I haven't done extensive testing with my time pattern on stock index, on indices, though. That's one side note I should add. More on Forex. But if it hangs in here and makes a bull flag like that, yes, looks like a breakout. But for the moment, I think it's these fibs will act as resistance, and if it moves up, it will make something like this. It will make kind of a corrective pattern. So then it depends if it makes an up and a down. Will it bounce here again for the breakout, or will there be a bigger reversal? That is the real interesting spot. I know, back a bit to more realistic charts and time frames. So if we look at it on a 4-hour chart, I think the space between R1 and R2 and the R2 and the R3, those are bullish zones for breakout. But we got to be aware that price could turn at these zones of confluence at 1243, 1250, sorry, 12,430 and 12,550. So bullish breaks zones, but bearish levels to think about. That could create a bounce. And in the meantime, price might make a small dash up, hit the R1, bounce at the R1, go back to the weekly pivot point, for instance. There's a strong resistance zone in here at the 38.2 fib, R1, multiple trend lines. That could be a bouncing spot back to the pivot point, for instance, or the trend line. And that could be a bouncing spot too. So could be some bounces before there's a breakout on the DAX, in my view. So quickly summarized, R1 could be a bouncing spot. Weekly pivot point could be a bouncing spot. If it does break, I do expect it to the upside, to the R2, to the R3. If it does break the S1, that would invalidate it and would challenge the bottom probably. I don't expect that personally at this moment. If it does make the break to the upside, I think the space to the upside is limited because I think this will act as resistance and there will be some bigger correction still before we have a larger breakout. Let's make a screenshot of this and see if it plays out. But this is my 2 cents at the moment. And we'll find out soon enough. All right, so that's about it for today. Thanks everyone for joining. And please check out admiralmarkets.com. You can open an account, check out the platforms, the extra features, of course, the extra plugin, MT4 Supreme Edition. And join us hopefully for more webinars here, education webinars tomorrow. Then I have both the webinar. On Thursday, it will be only me this time. We'll take a look at wave patterns, wave theory, 2-part seminar. Webinar, sorry. All right, so thank you for all of your comments. Thank you, Angel. And thank you, Ildiko and Mohammed and Z and everyone else. And see you all soon. Cheers.